네, 안녕하세요. 이제 4일차 수업을 진행을 하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 뭐 아는 사람은 알겠지만은 지금 코로나 사태 때문에 저희가 지금 온라인 수업으로 진행을 하고 있고요. 뭐 그러다 보니 여러분들을 지금 계속해서 오프라인에서 이제 못 만나고 있습니다. 뭐 사실은 어쨌든 이제 뭐 제가 이제 이 동영상을 좀 더 이제 빨리 올렸어야 되는데 오늘 그 제가 있는 오피스 가는 우정관이 그 코로나 의심 환자 때문에 폐쇄가 되면서 뭐 제가 이제 오피스를 들어가지 못하는 그런 사태가 이제 발생했습니다. 그래서 이제 미처 이제 아침에 이 강의를 녹화를 하지 못하고 이제 제가 이제 집에서 녹화를 해야 되는 그런 이제 상황이 되었는데 뭐 참 집에서 녹화를 하다 보니까 이제 녹화를 할 수 있는 환경이 제약적이기도 하고요. 또 할 수 있는 시간이 제약적이라서 이게 쉽지 않은 어, 그런 상황인 것 같습니다. 어쨌든 이제 그래서 제가 이제 뭐 전에는 여기에 이제 조그맣게 제 얼굴을 띄워놨었는데 지금은 상황이 여의치 않아서 제가 이제 얼굴을 띄워놓지 않고 그냥 목소리로 이제 파워포인트 프레젠테이션을 하면서 강의를 이제 녹화를 하려고 합니다. 이 점은 이제 좀 양해를 부탁드리고요. 사실 제일 좋은 거는 이제 코로나 사태가 빨리 이제 끝나는 것이긴 한데 이제 쉽지는 않을 것 같네요. 쉽지는 않을 것 같고 또 이제 그래서 온라인 강의로 이제 준비가 된 것이 아니기 때문에 제가 이제 프레젠테이션을 이제 녹화를 하고 이렇게 그다음에 이제 슬라이드에서 네, 죄송합니다. 직접 이제 필기를 하고 그런 식으로 이제 진행을 하고는 있지만은 아무래도 한계는 있을 것 같긴 합니다. 어쨌든 저도 최선을 다해서 프레젠테이션을 하고 강의를 녹화를 하고 그럴 거긴 하지만 그래서 이제 불편한 건 있을 거기 때문에 많은 양해를 부탁을 드립니다. 네, 진행을 해보도록 하겠습니다. 예, 잘 써지나? 네, 테스트를 하고요. 예, 잘 되네요. 네, 전 시간에는 우리가 이제 Instruction Set Architecture에 대해서 강의를 제가 했고요. 지금부터는 이제 Static Pipeline, 보통 이제 Pipeline Architecture, 그러니까는 CPU에서 이제 사용하는 그런 파이프라이닝 구조에 대해서 설명을 하도록 하겠습니다. 사실 이제 파이프라이닝 아키텍처는 여러분들이 언더그래주에이트, 그러니까 학부에 이제 컴퓨터 구조 과목이 있죠. 그 학부 컴퓨터 구조 과목에서 이제 메이저리, 그러니까 중점적으로 이제 다루는 그런 분야이죠. 그렇기 때문에 파이프라이닝을 또 배우나 그런 생각을 할 수 있을 것 같은데 네, 그 학부에서 배우는 이제 파이프라이닝은 5스테이지 파이프라이닝 그러니까 이제 가장 기본적인 형태의 파이프라이닝을 이제 배우게 되고요. 그 다음에 이제 여기서는 이제 조금 더 발전됐다고 해야 되나요? 일단은 플로팅 포인트를 이제 지원하기 위한 좀 더 이제 디퍼 파이프라이닝 아키텍처라든지, 그 다음에 이제 슈퍼 파이프라인 혹은 이제 슈퍼 스케일러 이런 여러 가지 파이프라이닝 테크닉에 대해서 이제 배우도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 이제 파이프라이닝 아키텍처에서 이제 좀 중요한 거는 이제 컴파일러의 역할이 되겠는데요. 어쨌든 이제 우리가 이제 뒤에 배울 다이나믹 이제 파이프라이닝과는 달리 이제 스태틱 파이프라이닝은 어쨌든 이제 하드웨어가 인스트럭션이 이제 들어오는 순서대로 대부분 처리를 하기 때문에 그 하드웨어의 이제 퍼포먼스를 이제 떨어뜨리는 여러 가지 요소, 특히 이런 요소들을 우리가 해저드라고 이제 부르죠. 해저드를 이제 최소로 하기 위한 그런 컴파일러의 이제 테크닉들이 이제 들어가게 됩니다. 그 이제 컴파일러의 이제 스케줄링이라고 이제 우리가 부르게 되는데 어떤 스케줄링 테크닉들이 있는지 이제 다루게 될 것입니다. So this is the outline of today's class, and then so we will briefly review the previous five-stage pipeline architecture. Actually, this five-stage pipeline architecture was covered by the undergraduate computer architecture course. So, but I will briefly review this five-stage pipeline architecture, the simple pipeline architecture, and then some. Actually, this five-stage pipeline architecture is actually architecture handles the only integer operation, integer or arithmetic or memory operations, also the control operations. But if we include the floating point arithmetic operation, then this floating point processing will take longer cycles. So that means in order to include the floating point operations or processing, then pipeline stage should be deeper than the pipe stage. So in this case, the completion can be out of order. So in this case, after the five-stage pipeline architecture, we covered the out-of-order completion issue of the pipeline architecture. And then I will talk about the super pipeline architecture or superscalar CPUs. And then this static pipeline architecture may waste some clock cycles, and then this phenomenon is called the hazard. So in order to avoid the performance degradation by this hazard, some compiler techniques are introduced. So after this pipeline architecture, I will talk about the compiler techniques to adjust the order of the instructions. So firstly, so my plan is to cover the first two topics in the first lecture, and then in the next lecture I will cover the super pipelines and the superscalar and then compiler techniques. So this is some example of the simple five-stage pipelining operation. So this column is the instruction. Then you can find some several instructions. Here is a load word, is the load instruction, and then store word, add immediate, and then conditional branch instruction. So I believe you already learned about this five-stage pipelining architecture. So what are the stages of the five-stage pipeline architecture? So instruction fetch is the IF here, and then instruction decode is the ID, and then execution EX, and the memory operation ME, and then write back. And then I believe the operation of you already know the operation of each stage. So in the instruction fetch stage, the instruction is read from the instruction memory. And then, so actually we call this is the instruction memory, but actually it's the instruction cache. So this is some main operation of the instruction fetch stage. Fetch the instruction from the instruction memory and then increase the program counter value by 4. So so why 4? Because we assume that the size of each instruction is 32-bit. It's a 4-byte. And then instruction decode. So what's the operation of ID stage? So first, the instruction is decoded. So that means that the binary form of the instruction is decoded and then translated in the ID stage. And then in the ID stage, what is the other operation? Read the data from the register file. For the if the registers are required, the data are requested from the register file, then the data is fetched from the register file in the ID stage. And then for the conditional branch instruction, the target address, actually this is the target program counter, is calculated in the ID stage. And then for the unconditional branch instruction, like a jump instruction, the target address is also calculated here, and then in the next clock, the target instruction is fetched. And then what is the operation of the execution stage? So actually there is ALU, is an ALU here. So the arithmetic or logical operations is performed in the execution stage. So for the memory operation like store, load or store instruction, the address is calculated in the execution stage, like here with the add of the ALU logic, ALU unit, sorry. And then the arithmetic and logical operations are executed in the EX stage. And then for the conditional branch instruction, the comparison of the two data fetched from the two registers are performed in the execution stage. So the taken or not taken, the taken or not taken of the conditional branch instruction is determined in the execution stage here. And then memory stage, so data memory is accessed in the memory stage. The write back, the data is written back to the register file in the write back stage. This is the so I explained about the operation of the each 5-stage pipeline architecture, 5-stage stages, 5 stages. So I briefly explained, but in this simple 5-stage pipeline architecture, the floating point operation or some synchronization instruction is not covered. It's not considered. So we will address this FP operation and the synchronization instructions later. So actually, this figure shows some architecture of the 5-stage pipeline, and then this is the block diagram, and then this figure shows the data flow between the pipelining registers and then the data path in the each pipeline stages. So here is the program counter is in the instruction fetch stage. There is a program counter here, and the instruction memory is here. The instruction is fetched from the instruction memory, and then in the ID stage there is the register file here, and then you can find the support for the register file, and then the data is read from this register file. In the EX stage there is ALU, ME, there is the data memory is here. So data memory is accessed by the address calculated from the this ALU, and then the data is fetched from the memory stage. And then the write back stage, the final result or some data fetched from the data memory is written back to the register file. So as you can see, each pipeline registers is here, and then we indicate the pipeline register like the. So we represent the pipeline register like this: the previous stage, and then the next stage, and then slash. This is some pipeline staging, a pipeline register, and then as you can see at each pipeline register, the control signals are also propagated with the instructions. So in the textbook, so it is represented as the instruction carries control. So actually this is obvious. So in order to match some timing of the instruction and then the control of the instruction, the control signals and then some partial result should be propagated with the instruction at each pipelining registers. So this is general approach, and this should be, this is some obvious design. So instruction carries its baggage. So it's some basic operation of the pipelining architecture, static pipelining architecture. And then the important, actually it's a critical issue, very important issue of the pipelining architecture is the hazard. So what is the hazard? Hazard here. So what is the hazard? So actually you already know about the hazard if you took the undergraduate computer architecture course. And then what is the hazard? Is the hazard is some event to waste the clock cycles in the computer processor. So why this clock cycle is wasted? So actually, what is the computer processor? Is a CPU or some processing unit. So processor, actually proc executes the instruction at every cycle. So this is the what we expect for the computer processor. So I will repeat: the instructions can be executed at every clock cycle. This is the what we expect for the computer processor, but for some reason these clock cycles can be wasted. That means that the instructions cannot be executed or cannot be performed for some clock cycle. So that means that this hazard is some event to waste the clock cycle in the computer processor. And then there are three kinds of hazard. What is that? What are that? What are those? So what are the three kinds of hazard in the computer processor? Data hazard, and then second, structure hazard, and then control hazard. So these are the three kinds of the hazard in the computer processor. So what is the data hazard? So in this slide, I will explain about the data hazard here. So what is the data hazard? Why data hazard occurs? Why does the data hazard occur? The data hazard caused by the data dependency between two instructions or some two instructions. What is the data dependency? So for example, so this add instruction create some value for the register R1, and then the following sub instruction needs the data from the previous precedent add instruction, the previous add instruction here. So this is the data dependency. So some data is created from a certain instruction, then some following instructions may require the data from the previous instruction. So data dependency. So actually data dependency is very important in the computer code. So the compilers frequently apply some optimization techniques based on these data dependency graphs. So, so what are the some so what kind so what are the some kinds of data hazard? So actually we can expect some 4 kinds of data hazard, like with the read and write. So actually this is the low hazard, is the read after write. So what does this hazard mean? Read after write. What does this hazard mean? So actually this the the word before this after means this operation is delayed because of is some following this operation. So this one operation, the first operation is the operation by this first word before this after word is delayed by this operation. This is the low hazard. So actually this is some definition of the hazard. 그러니까 이게 뭐냐면은 이 after라는 거 전치사라고 해야 되나요? 전치사 앞에 read라는 오퍼레이션 있잖아요. 이 read 오퍼레이션이 after 뒤에 있는 이 write 오퍼레이션, 이것 때문에 딜레이가 되는 것이 low. 그러니까는 hazard를 이제 define을 하는 겁니다. So we define some causes of hazard with this relationship between read and write operation of instructions. So what is this case? Low hazard, read after write. The read operation is delayed by this write operation. What is this case? So add R1 and then sub something R1. So this following sub instruction requires the register data from this previous precedent add instruction. So before add instruction write the data to the register file is R1. This sub instruction cannot read the data from the register file. So it's a read. So sub instruction requires the read operation, but because of the write operation of the previous former add instruction, the sub instruction cannot be executed. This is the low hazard. Then what is the wow hazard? It's a write after write hazard. So it's a write after write hazard. So it's a 1, it's a 2. So that means that this write operation should be delayed by another write operation. What is this case? So add R1 and then here oops. I don't know how to. Okay. So okay, I start from the wow hazard. The wow hazard is the write after write is the 1, it's 2. So like more R1 something, and then add R1. something. So let us assume that the multiply operation requires the longer, more clock cycles is normally true, and then but this add instruction requires only one cycle for the execution. So even though this multiplier is precede this following add instruction, the result from this add instruction may be generated earlier. So if this R1 is stored earlier than this R1 by the multiply instruction, this is the result of the R1 may be corrupted. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was confused. So multiply and add should be it should be replaced. 죄송합니다. Sorry. Yeah, so it's like so right. It's a multiple. I was confused. More R1 and then add R1 here. So after this operation, the final result should be R1 from add, because the add is following more instruction, multiply instruction, but this actually the multiplier will take longer. So after add is complete this operation, then multiply may be completed after the execution of the add instruction. So in this case, the final value can be from the multiplier instruction. This is the wow hazard, right after right. Then what is the war hazard? So this is the right after read. Now what does that mean? Because of this read operation, the write operation should be delayed. So what is this case? So it's not very rare in the static pipeline architecture, but for some case, this war hazard can occur, can happen. So in this case, so like add like something R1, but and then the like a sub, so R1 is here. So after so add instruction read the R1 register file, read data from the R1 register file, and then after that the sub instruction try to write the data to the R1. But for some reason the sub may write the data to the R1 register file earlier than the add instruction read data from the R1. From some reason, so it's very rare. Actually, it will not happen in the static pipeline architecture, but in the dynamic pipeline architecture, it may occur, it may happen, but it's very rare. It's very rare. So in this case, the R1 should be, this sub instruction should be delayed. This is some concept, the meaning of the war hazard. So it is, and then we can imagine some other hazard, RAR, but this is the read. So read after read, but so this read operation will not delay some other read operation. So the RAR hazard is not included in the true data hazard. So I explained about the three different kinds of data hazard, and then this data hazard data hazards are caused by data dependencies between two different instructions. But if data dependence is not data hazard, so that means that even though the data dependencies are found in the different two instructions, it is data dependencies will not cause data hazard every time. So that's true. So even if the data instructions are scheduled properly, then this data hazard can be avoided. So this is by the compiler techniques. So actually, it's simple for the simple 5-stage pipeline architecture. Only low hazard is observed. So it is because every instructions are go through all 5 stages of this pipeline architecture. So for example, all instructions here. So here in this example, actually all instruction, memory operation instruction, add instruction, arithmetic instruction, and then control instructions all go through the 5-stage pipeline. Actually, this add, memory, and arithmetic instructions. So that's why the only low hazard are observed in the 5-stage pipeline. And then no data hazard on the memory front because the load instruction and the store instruction access the same data memory at the same stage. And then another kind of hazard is the structural hazard. So what is the structural hazard? So if some hardware resources are occupied by some instruction, and then other instruction try to access the same hardware resources, hardware unit. So in this case, the other instruction cannot access this hardware unit because this hardware unit was already occupied by the previous instructions. So this following instruction needs to be stored in the pipelines. This is the structural hazard. So structural hazard was caused by resource contention. For example, the register by port, like a read-write port, and the memory fetching can be maybe some major source of the actually the major source of the structural hazard. So how can we avoid this structural hazard? So actually this structural hazard is caused by the lack of hardware resources. So actually the very simple and straightforward solution is to add more hardwares. But what's the problem? It's a cost issue. So if cost issue is not important, then we can add more hardware to avoid structural hazard. And what's the control hazard? Control hazard is the waste of cycles by control instructions such as conditional branch or jump instructions. So when the jump instruction or conditional branch, so actually for the normal instruction flow, with the normal instruction flow, the next instruction, like PC plus 4, is accessed at every cycles, but branch instruction is different. So when the branch instruction is taken, the conditional branch instruction is taken, and the PC should be updated by the target PC, the target addresses. But problem is that this branch instruction will be reserved in the EX stage for the conditional branch, and then IT stage by the unconditional branch instructions. So we should waste the cycle if the branch instruction is taken. So this is the hazard is called the control hazard. So this is some example of the low hazard, and then so here we can find the data dependencies from R1 to R1, and then R1 to actually R1 here, and then R1 to R1 here, and then R1 to R1 here. So actually these instructions I2 to I5 requires the register file data from the created by I1. So we can find the data dependencies in every instruction pair, but when the hazard but hazard will not be hazard will not occur at every cycles. So for example, so let's just see the instructions I1 and I5. Well, so there's no hazard here because when so the data is required here in the ID stage, but the data is already stored by already written at the write back stage of I1. So and for the I1 to I4 is here. So this OR instruction requires data in the ID stage here, and then but this data is written in the write back stage. So in order to avoid the data hazard by this between I1 to I4, so we can apply the register forwarding. So what is the register forwarding? So if this stored register and then the fetched register is stored register is required by some other instruction at the same cycle, then this stored register value is forwarded to the some requested register by requested registers. So this is the register forwarding. So if the register forwarding is provided, then there is no hazard between I1 to I4. And then I1 to I3 is here. The write back is here, and then this load instruction requires data in the ID stage. So if there is no forwarding, then this load instruction should be stalled. But this adding the value of the result of this add instruction is generated after the EX stage here, and then just propagated in the ME or write back stage after this EX stage. So data is already created at the EX stage. So this data can be forwarded to the EX stage here. But this forwarding is forwarded from the write back. So actually write back to the EX stage here. So address actually this load instruction requires the address generation from the register file 1 R1. So the result is some pipelining register. So after this pipeline register can be directly forwarded to the EX stage of this load instruction. So this is data forwarding from write back to the EX input, the write back input to the EX. Also, between I1 and I2, this is also add instruction here. So this is the ID stage, and then the data is required in the EX stage here. So the data is already created in the EX stage of the I1, so data can be forwarded from ME to the EX stage for the between I1 and I2. So if the data forwarding is provided, then there is no data hazard, so there is no low hazard between these instructions. But this forwarding cannot prevent data hazard if the former precedent instruction is the load instruction, the memory instruction, and then the following instruction is the arithmetic instruction. So in this example, the load store the data to the R1 here, and then we can find the data dependency between I want to add R1, so R1 here, and also data dependency here, and then here. So what is the problem? So data will be out at the some last part of the this C4 clock cycle C4 by this load instruction. But the data is required at the start point of the EX stage here by add I instruction. So when the data is required by this add I instruction, but the required data R1 is not prepared. So what should we do? So we need to delay the execution of this following add instruction here. So this is the data hazard, low hazard, RAW hazard. So we need to store the execution of the add instruction here. So in this case, the add instruction is stored in the ID stage. And then the following load instruction should be stored in the instruction fetch stage. So in this case, we waste the one cycle one clock cycle. So this figure shows some additional hazard detection unit HDU here, hazard detection unit, and then boarding unit in the 5-stage pipelines. So hazard detection unit is inserted in the ID stage. So in the ID stage, this hazard detection unit compares the source registers and then destination register of the instructions. And then the forwarding unit also compares the source and destination register of the two instructions. And then if the forwarding is possible, the forwarding is required, this forwarding unit generate the selection signal for this forwarding mux. And then this forwarding mux is located before this ALU. So actually the forwarding is always positive before this EX stage. Okay, control hazard. So I said that the control hazard is the wasted cycle by the branch instruction or jump instruction. So for the conditional branch instruction, the target is determined in the ID stage, and then branch is resolved at the EX stage. So before the branch is resolved, we don't know the result of this conditional branch. What is the conditional branch? So it's like BQ. If the branch is taken, then this conditional branch make the PC is updated to the target PC. So that means that the instruction is jumped to the target instruction. If not, it's the not taken case. It's not taken. Then the very next instruction, like some add instruction here, is executed. So for the For the conditional branch instructions, if the branch is not taken, there's no hazard. So that means that the clock cycles are not wasted by not taken branch instructions. But if the branch is taken, then we need to replace the PC with some target PC value, but this branch will be reserved in the EX stage. So we need to store the following instructions in the pipelines. So like to cancel the some instructions that is already in the some other pipelining stages. So not taken is no hazard, but taken is the hazard. So waste of the cycles. And then for the how about the jump instruction? Jump instruction is the unconditional branch. So that means that it's always taken. So jump instruction always wastes the clock cycles, but the target is target address is target PC is determined in the ID stage. So this jump instruction only wastes one clock cycle. And then exception. So actually, I explained about the exception in the instruction set architecture class. So when exception happens, the exception handler should be called. And then, so this is the some precise exception, the condition of the precise exception. So that means that the precise exception should be synchronized and then resumable. So that means that, so here is the some instruction is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then exception happens at the instruction 3. So when exception happens, the former instruction 1 and 2 should be completed. And then the exception should be handled for some exceptions for the instruction 3. And then the following instruction 4 and 5, the operation of the following instruction should be cancelled. It's cancelled here. So this is the precise exception. So synchronized and then resumable. So after exception is handled, the following instruction like 4 and 5 should be executed again. So this is the some requirement of the precise exception. So all instructions preceding and all following instruction must complete. And then the faulting instruction and the following instruction must be flushed. So it's flushed here. The handler must start its execution. This is the precise exception. And then, so for example, so it says the instruction fetch, instruction decode, and then EX, and then memory, ME, and then write backstage. But so let's take an example from the some overflow exception is overflow OF. So when the overflow exception is detected, so for example, we had the add instruction add R1, R2, and R3, and the overflow will be detected at the ALU. It's the EX stage here. So exception can be detected in the EX stage. Then what will happen? So there may be instruction 1 is in the write back stage, and then 2 is in the memory stage, and then EX 3, 4, 5. So exception is happened here, but this exception can be, so we may think that if exception is detected, then it's observed, then exception handler should be called in order to handle these exceptions. But how about these two instructions? This former two instruction should be completed before calls the exception handler. So it's not practical to take an exception in the cycle when it happens because of this issue. The former instruction should complete its operation before the exception is handled. Also, another problem is that the multiple exceptions can happen in the same pipeline. It's the same hardware. For example, the exception can happen in the EX stage here, and the exception can be, and at the same time, the exception can happen in the ID stage. So here and here, like undefined instruction is here, and then overflow exception can happen in the EX stage. So how can we handle this instruction? Because in the temporal temporal view, the exception happened at the same time, at the same clock cycle. So how can we handle this case? So the exceptions should be handled in order. It's a program order, actually, instruction order. So in this case, the CPU need to process this exception or first, and then handles this second exception. So this is the instruction order. So another example that for the instruction 4, the exception can happen in the ID stage, but at the 1 clock, the exception can happen in the ME stage by instruction 3. So even though in the temporal view, the exception by instruction 4 happens earlier, but the processor need to first handles the exception by instruction 3. 그러니까는 이게 어쨌든 exception이 이제 수행되는 이제 순서가 시간적 순서, temporal order가 아니라 그 instruction order대로 우리가 이제 수행이 되어야 된다는 거죠. So the computer processor does not handle the exception when it happens. So actually the exception flag is generated here at the pipeline stage, and then exception flags are propagated until write back stage. So when the exception flags reach the write back stage, the exceptions are finally handled. So this is very important. So exceptions must be taken in process order, not in temporal order. So this is some property of the simple pipeline architecture. So in pipeline, instructions carry their baggage. So this baggage include some control bits, and then some data, and then some partial result by the instructions. And then these data dependencies and then hazards should be handled separately in the ID stage. And then and then three fundamental mechanism of the pipelining architecture is that the data forwarding. The first mechanism is the data forwarding. So data forwarding is that if the data is prepared in the pipeline, then this data can be forwarded to the requested to the following instructions if requested. So this is data some rule of the data forwarding. Values can be forwarded to where they are needed as soon as they are available. And then instruction storing is the hazard, actually hazard by hazard. So if the data is not prepared, it's not generated, then the following instructions cannot exploit this data. So the data cannot be forwarded. So in this case, the pipeline operation should be stalled. And then stage flush. So for the control, for the control instruction, like a branch instruction. So if the branch instruction is taken, then the following pipelines should be cancelled. It's like flushed. flush라고 하죠. 이런 거. pipeline flush. So the bubbles are replaced the following instructions. So like bubble is the no operation이죠. So until now, so I explained about the simple five-stage pipeline, and this simple five-stage pipeline just handles the integer and arithmetic instructions, and the data instruction and control instructions. So these are the kind of integer type instruction. But the computer processor also execute the and then support the floating point instructions, and normally the floating point processing requires the longer clock cycle, more clock cycles. So it is because the floating point hardware is much more complex than the integer type execution units. So so this is the out of execution completion case of the pipeline architecture, static pipeline architecture. So in this example, the floating point instruction take 5 clocks here, and then the integer will consume 1 clock by the EX stage. So when the floating point instruction is processed, then it will take 5 clocks. So what's the problem? So in this case, the floating point will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cycles until completion, but integer type instructions will consume 5 cycles. So that means that even though the floating point is here, the integer instruction is here, then the integer instruction will be completed earlier than the floating point instruction. So in this case, this pipeline architecture is shows the out of order completion. So because even though the instructions are issued in order, but the completion of the instruction is out of order. So it's some different cases of the pipelining architecture. And then, And then let's talk about the latency and the repeat interval. So what is the latency of operation? So the latency of the operation is the minimum number of cycles between an instruction and producing a result and the instruction consuming it. So this latency of the operation defines some potential wasted clock between the dependent instructions. So for example, what does that mean? If there is some arithmetic operation is here, and then some other arithmetic operations are solved here, and then by the data forwarding, this following sub instruction can get receive the data from the former this preceding add instruction. So actually, if the arithmetic instruction is executed, then the following instruction can get some data without any waste of clock cycles. So the latency of this integer ALU is the 0, so no clock cycle is wasted. But how about the load instruction? If the load instruction is here, then the arithmetic instruction is here. So if there is the dependency between the load instruction and the very next add instruction, then we need to store this following instruction at the ID stage by 1 clock. So that's the latency of the load instruction is the 1 because we may waste the 1 clock due to data hazard between load instruction and the following instruction. How about the floating point instruction? And then in the previous example, the floating point instruction take 5 clocks. Here, like 5 stages of 5 stages of pipeline stages. So, and the floating point instruction is here, like F1, and then load instruction. The floating point is here, and then the floating point is require the data from the preceding floating point instruction. Then the following instruction should wait up to 4 clocks. So this is some potential wasted cycles due to data dependencies. So this latency of the operation defines the potential wasted cycles by data dependencies. And how about the repeat and the initiation interval? So this is some clock cycles that is required for executing each instruction. So that means that if the one add instruction is executed at the very next clock, the following add can be executed again. So it's actually this is the ideal case of the pipelining architecture, static pipelining architecture. So this initiation interval defines the clock cycle number of clocks that must elapse between consecutive instructions to the same hardware unit, execution unit. So, for example, if the add, if the add is issued, then the add instruction can be issued very next clock. So after 1 clock. So it is initiation interval of the integer ALU instructions is 1. And load instruction is the same, but then if the floating point instruction is the pipeline, then this initiation interval is the 1. If the floating point is pipelined like this, then when the floating point instruction is here, then the following floating point instruction can be issued at the next clock. But if the floating point execution is not pipelined, then this value should be 5. So this latency and then initiation interval defines some relations between the clock cycles between some instructions. And then if the floating point instruction is included in the pipeline architecture, then the structural hazard can be observed. So this is the example. So this is the floating point instruction add.s. S means the floating point add instruction. So single precision. Then the following add instruction is the also floating point instruction. This is the load, single precision, load. And then actually this is load instruction, is a memory instruction. And then this memory load instruction fetch the data from the memory and then store the data to the floating point register file. And this add instruction is the floating point instruction. So these two add instructions go through the floating point stages like FP1, F2, F3, F4, like here, and then ME, and then write back stage. So this path. But this memory operation, memory instruction like here, go through the integer type pipelines like EX, ME, and write back. So this is this path here. So what's the problem? So actually this is also example of the out of order completion. So even though this add instruction is issued earlier, but the following load instruction will be completed earlier. So the completion order is exchanged. So what is the problem? At the cycle C8, this I1 and then I5 is at the same pipelining stage, memory stage. Also at the same write back stage at the clock cycle C9. So that's some potential of the structural hazard. So the different instruction is located at the same pipelining stage. So the potential of the structural hazard, but for the ME stage, there is no structural hazard because the data memory is only accessed by its memory instructions. So no structural hazard by I1 and I5 at the clock cycle C8, but at the C9, the I1 and I5 is located at the same write back stage. And then what is the target register file is the floating point register file. So, and then we know that the floating register file has only one write port. So two different instructions try to write the data to the floating point register files at the same cycles. That's the structural hazard. The structural hazard. So one instruction should be stored here. So how can we avoid this structural hazard? The simple and then very simple idea and then very straightforward idea is to add one more write port to the register file. So is the write file, is that a good idea? So it requires so if some one port is added to the register file, then the size of the register file will be increased. So that means that cost of the register file will be increased. So it requires to increase the cost of the computer hardware. Good idea? I don't know. So if we don't want increase the cost of the hardware unit, then the possible solution is to store this load instruction. If this load instruction is stored by one cycle, then write back stage will be here. Then we can avoid the structural hazard, so the contention of the register file. Okay. What is the techniques to avoid the structural hazard? So the first is very simple solution is add hardware resources, and then second solution is the store instructions in the ID stage. Also, we can expect some different type of data hazard. The wow hazard, right after right hazard here. For the floating point registers, why? This is the add instruction, is the floating point arithmetic instructions. It will take 9 cycles. And how about this load instruction, load double word? So actually, the target register file is the same, and then it will take 5 cycles. So in this case, even though the add instruction is issued earlier, this load instruction will be completed earlier than this add.d instruction. So in order to avoid this wow hazard, the load L.D instruction should be stored in the ID stage. Then there is no war hazard, the write after read hazard, because the read is happened early. So no war hazard, but the war hazard can be encountered. So how can we avoid this wow hazard? So we can store the following this load instructions to avoid the wow hazard. So this load instruction should wait until the add instruction stores the data to the floating point register file. Then there is no change of the control hazard, because control instruction, branch instruction go through the same path like here. So there's no change for the control hazard. And then as the pipelining is deeper, as the pipelining gets deeper, then the more low hazard can happen, and then the more low hazard stores can be generated. So this is some example of the low hazard by floating point operation instruction. So this is store s.d instruction wait until this form of floating point arithmetic instruction generate the data after this last floating point pipelining stages. So this s.d should be stored at the ith stage for 4 cycles. So let's see how we handle this structural hazard and data hazard in this out-of-order completion pipelining architecture. So how can we handle this structural hazard? So waiting the instruction D until the functional unit is not busy. So if the hardware unit is busy, then the following instruction cannot be issued. So we can, in the ith stage, we can calculate the initiation interval of some instruction. Then if the following instruction requests the same hardware unit, but the former instruction is still executed in the hardware unit, then the following instruction should be stored in the id stage. Also, in the write-back stage, the computer processor need to check the required raise to write port will be available. And then low hazard. So low hazard can be handled by the boarding unit and then hazard detection unit. So hazard detection unit is located in the ith stage, and then this hazard detection unit check the operand. So operand, source operand, and then the destination operand of the former instructions, proceeding instructions. And then wow hazard. Actually, wow hazard is so we can apply some similar technique to handle the wow hazard. So very similar to the low hazard, but we can compare the destination register of the two instructions. So in order to check the wow hazard of in the pipelining architecture, then this wow hazard detection unit compares the destination register of the current instruction, and then destination register of any instruction in the pipelines. But actually, the wow hazard is very rare because this is some example shown in this class. This is the floating point arithmetic operation, and this is the memory operation of the floating point. So destination register is the same. So wow hazard is observed. But this case is very rare. Why? So in this example, the F2 is updated by the add instruction, but at the very next instruction, this F2 is also updated by the very next instruction. But it's not reasonable because F2 is generated, but F2 is not consumed, and then F2 is updated by the other instruction without consuming. So it's not reasonable actually. So it's very rare, but wow hazard should be checked by hardware. Again, I will cover until the precise exceptions. So let's see this example. The two instructions. So this two instruction is the floating point instruction, and then this is the integer arithmetic instructions. So there is no dependency because the floating point instructions only access the floating point register file, and then the integer instructions only access the integer register file. There's no dependency. It's totally independent. But what's the problem? The issue is with respect to the precise exception. So this is the pipeline pipeline stage or pipeline stages by this floating point arithmetic instruction at that s. This is the pipeline stages by integer arithmetic instruction. So we know that the integer instruction will be completed earlier than the floating point instruction. The problem is that if the exception is observed here, but the floating is integer following integer instruction is completed already. So what is the condition? What is the requirement of precise exception? The following instruction and then current instruction should be cancelled. That means that flushed. Problem is that as the exception happens at cycle C7 here, then the add instruction is already completed and then updated to the register file. That broke the requirement for precise exception. That's the problem. So how can you handle this case? The first solution is ignore precision on exceptions. So ignore the precise exceptions. So this method is just log some approximate program counter of the instruction that encounter the exceptions. So and then when the exception happens, then the exception handler just log exception handler is just called, and then the instruction is resumed based on this approximately logged program counter. So this is just ignore the precision on the exception. So actually ignore the precise exception. So, but this solution is not practical because the today machine need to support the virtual memory, and then what is the exception by this virtual memory? It's page port. So actually the all computer processor, I say most of the processor need to support the virtual memory. That means that the page fault can happen, and the page fault is the kind of exception. So this exception should be supported. The precise exception should be supported for the page fault. And then IEEE floating point standard also requires the very precise exceptions. So it's not a viable option. So it's not practical. And then also another solution is to deal the exception as if they were hazard. What is this case? So this case means that, so we know that this add instruction will be completed later than this following integer instructions. So in this case, integer instruction is stalled even though there is no dependencies, and stalled, and then the integer instruction is executed after the add this floating point instruction is completed. So do not issue an instruction in the ID until it is sure that all prior instructions are exception free. So, but problem is that it will degrade the performance of the pipeline architecture. So that's obvious. It will degrade the performance of this computer processor. And then the third solution is the force in-order completion. So this is some solution is a force in-order completion. So in this case, even actually in the previous figures, the write backstage was here, but in this example, this force in-order completion architecture, the integer instruction also go through the all same pipeline stages as the floating point instructions. So it forced the in-order completion for all type of instructions. So this is some practical solution for the precise exception, but these techniques can be applied for only simple pipeline architecture. Also, for the store instruction, the store instruction is updated. Actually, this is not. This solution cannot resolve the issues by store instruction. Why? Actually, the store instruction is performed at this memory stage. So that means that the store instruction is can be committed earlier than this floating point instruction, even with this pipeline architecture. So that is the issue on the only store instruction. So actually, the precise exception is the very tricky problem of the modern processor architecture. So actually, it's very tricky. It's very tricky. So in order to support this precise exception, the hardware architecture of the modern processor should be very complex, or so maybe this precise exception required very deliberated and then complex hardware design. 뭐 사실 이렇게 참 precise exception 같은 경우에는 참 하드웨어적으로 디자인하기가 굉장히 어렵고, 그렇지만 이제 서포트를 해야 되기 때문에 참 뭐랄까 쉽지 않은 이슈입니다. 쉽지 않은 이슈고, 참 이 exception을 제대로 이제 진짜 처리하기 위해서 정말 하드웨어적으로 많은 그런 고민들이 이제 들어가야 됩니다. 그래서 so I will stop here, and then it's the first part of the static pipeline architecture, and then in the next class I will cover the super pipeline and the super scaler, and then some compiler techniques for improving the performance of the static pipeline architecture. 사실 빠르게 이제 훑긴 했는데, 빠르게 리뷰를 하긴 했는데, 앞에 이제 simple 5-stage pipeline은 우리가 이제 undergraduate 코र्스에서 이제 다뤘기 때문에 여러분들이 이해하기 쉽지만, 이때 out of order라든지 이런 floating point issue들, 그 다음에 다른 타입의 와우 할자들아 이런 이슈들은 여러분들이 이제 조금은 잘 살펴봐야 되는, 새롭게 이제 들여봐야 되는 그런 이제 토픽이라고 이제 볼 수 있겠습니다. 수고 많았습니다. 사실 이 환경이 이제 받쳐주지 않고 또 시기인지라 쉽지가 않은데, 그래도 우리 최선을 다해서 열심히 공부를 하고 배워보도록 하겠습니다. 예, 수고 많았습니다.